Street Bartholomew's Day Massacre, France, 1572. The 24th of August, 1572. The streets of Paris are quiet, packed with visiting nobility and citizens. They are here to celebrate a royal wedding, a marriage designed to finally bring peace between the warring Catholic and Protestant factions of France. But the peace is a calculated trap. Just before the sun rises, the heavy bronze bells of the Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois church begin to toll in the dark. It is the signal. Heavily armed royal guards kick down the doors of the Protestant leaders. Men are dragged from their beds, pulled into the cobblestone streets, and slaughtered in their nightclothes. The targeted political assassination quickly spirals out of control, infecting the civilian population. A profound, terrifying mob mentality takes over the city. Neighbors turn on neighbors with butcher knives, axes, and makeshift clubs. Homes are looted, and entire families are trapped and burned inside their houses. The violence is so intense and fast that the River Seine quickly chokes with bodies, the water running thick and red. In a single day, thousands of people are butchered in the streets of Paris, sparking a massive wave of massacres that spreads across the French countryside. Halabja chemical attack. Iraq, 1988. The 16th of March, 1988. The morning is clear and ordinary in the Kurdish city of Halabja. Suddenly, the deep roar of Iraqi fighter jets breaks the calm. The planes circle low, but they do not drop conventional high-explosive bombs. They drop canisters that shatter upon hitting the dirt, releasing a strange, heavy, yellowish-white smoke that hugs the ground. Survivors later report the air taking on a bizarre, pleasant scent like sweet apples, garlic, and freshly cut grass. It is a deadly, weaponized cocktail of mustard gas and nerve agents like sarin. The effects are instantaneous. Birds drop out of the sky, hitting the rooftops. People running for the hills suddenly collapse in the streets, gasping for air as their nervous systems violently shut down. Parents die in doorways, using their own bodies to shield their children from the invisible gas. People lose their sight, their lungs fill with fluid, and their muscles seize. By sunset, 5,000 civilians are dead. Their bodies remain perfectly preserved in the exact positions they fell, frozen in a single afternoon of chemical terror. Operation Barbarossa, opening phase, 1941. The 22nd of June, 1941, 3:15 a.m. The vast border between the German Reich and the Soviet Union is completely silent. Then, the entire horizon erupts in fire. Over 3 million Axis soldiers, thousands of tanks, and thousands of aircraft launched the largest, deadliest military invasion in human history. Soviet border guards and frontline units are completely blind to the threat until high-explosive artillery shells tear their barracks apart while they are still sleeping. Entire divisions are encircled, cut off from communication, and annihilated before the sun reaches its peak. The sheer scale of the slaughter defies human comprehension. The skies fill with deafening dogfights, the ground shakes under the crushing weight of panzer tracks, and tens of thousands of men bleed out in the tall summer grass. Villages are burned to ash, and retreating columns are strafed from the air. By the time night falls on the very first day, the death toll has already reached the tens of thousands, setting the stage for the most brutal, unforgiving theater of war the world has ever seen. Battle of Cannae, Italy, 216 BC. August 2, 216 BC. The Apulian Plain in southern Italy. The summer heat is suffocating. The dust kicks up thick under the leather sandals of 86,000 Roman soldiers. They are marching forward in a massive, terrifying block of shields and spears, absolutely confident they will crush the Carthaginian army led by Hannibal. Hannibal's forces are smaller, arranged in a thin, bizarre crescent formation that bulges out toward the Romans. As the Roman heavy infantry smashes into the center, the Carthaginians intentionally step back, absorbing the blow. They slowly retreat, pulling the aggressive Romans deeper and deeper into a trap. The crescent inverts into a U shape. Suddenly, Hannibal's heavy cavalry returns from routing the Roman horsemen and violently slams into the rear of the Roman infantry. The trap snaps shut. The Romans are packed so tightly they cannot even raise their swords or draw breath. The slaughter begins. It is an industrial-scale butchery, done entirely by hand. The Carthaginians chop, stab, and slice for hours until their arms are physically exhausted. By sunset, up to 70,000 men lie dead in a space no larger than a modern city park. Tangshan earthquake, China, 1976. The 28th of July, 1976, 3:42 a.m. The dense industrial city of Tangshan, China, is asleep. The night shift is working in the coal mines deep underground. Above ground, the air is thick, humid, and unusually warm. Suddenly, the dark sky flashes with strange, multicolored lights. Then, a roar sounding like a massive underground freight train tears through the earth. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake strikes directly beneath the city center. The ground violently shakes, rolling and thrusting in multiple directions at once. The city is built on soft soil, and the unreinforced brick buildings instantly fail, collapsing into dust. In exactly 23 seconds, a city of 1 million people is entirely flattened. Families are crushed in their beds before they even wake up. Massive bridges snap in half, trains derail into ravines, and the earth physically opens up, swallowing roads and homes. When the sun finally rises through the thick cloud of dust, there is no city left. Over 240,000 people lie dead beneath the rubble, making it one of the deadliest single moments in human history. Indian Ocean tsunami, 2004. The 26th of December, 2004, a bright, peaceful Sunday morning. Tourists and locals are walking on the white sand beaches of Thailand, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka. At 7:59 a.m., a massive 9.1 magnitude earthquake violently ruptures the seafloor off the coast of Sumatra. The quake is so powerful, it slightly alters the Earth's rotation. Above water, the warning signs are silent and strange. The ocean begins to rapidly retreat, sucking out to sea and exposing miles of bare sand, rocks, and flopping fish. Curious onlookers walk out onto the exposed seabed, pointing at the strange phenomenon. They do not know a 100-foot wall of dark water is racing toward them at the speed of a commercial jetliner. When the wave finally hits the shoreline, it does not break like a normal surfing wave. It acts like a rapidly rising, unstoppable flood of solid concrete. It crushes concrete hotels, snaps palm trees like twigs, and sweeps entire coastal villages miles inland. Cars are tossed like toys. By the end of the day, over 230,000 people across 14 countries are dead, taken by the sea in a matter of minutes. September 11, Attacks USA 2001. The 11th of September 2001. A clear, blue Tuesday morning in New York City. The streets are packed with people walking to work. At 8:46 a.m., a commercial airliner flying at 470 miles per hour violently slams into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The world watches the burning gash in the steel, assuming a terrible, localized aviation accident. Then, at 9:03 a.m., a second passenger plane banks sharply over the Hudson River and strikes the South Tower. The horrifying realization hits the globe instantly. This is a coordinated attack. Below, the streets fill with falling debris, shattered glass, and the horrifying sight of trapped office workers jumping from 1,000 feet in the air. Within hours, both 110 story towers completely collapse, pancaking down into a massive, choking cloud of toxic dust, burying thousands of first responders and trapped civilians. Combined with the fiery strike on the Pentagon and the crash of Flight 93 inches at Pennsylvania Field, nearly 3,000 people are murdered in a single morning. The sheer suddenness of the violence paralyzes the modern world. Rwandan genocide, Rwanda, 1994. The 7th of April, 1994. Kigali, Rwanda. The president's plane was shot out of the sky the night before. By dawn, the local radio broadcasts are screaming violent instructions, calling the Tutsi minority cockroaches, and urging the Hutu majority to clear the brush. Roadblocks made of tires and wood are thrown up across the capital city. Neighbors who shared meals just days prior now pick up machetes, spiked clubs, and farming tools. The killing is not done with bombs or gas. It is intensely intimate, face-to-face butchery. People flee to churches, schools, and hospitals seeking sanctuary. only to find themselves completely trapped. The death squads work in organized shifts, systematically hacking men, women, and children to death in the aisles of chapels. The pace of the slaughter is terrifying, outpacing the death camps of World War II. On the peak days of the genocide, up to 10,000 people are murdered every 24 hours. The local rivers quickly clog with mutilated bodies, staining the water deep red. Nanjing Massacre, China, 1937. The 13th of December, 1937. The massive city walls of Nanjing, the capital of the Republic of China, finally fall to the advancing Japanese Imperial Army. What follows is a sudden, total descent into pure hell. The attacking soldiers do not simply occupy the city. They are unleashed upon the civilian population without any restraint or military discipline. Men suspected of being Chinese soldiers are rounded up by the tens of thousands. They are marched to the muddy banks of the Yangtze River, tied together with wire and machine gunned down. Their bodies are kicked into the water to wash away. In the streets, soldiers engage in horrific killing contests, timing how fast they can behead prisoners. Tens of thousands of women are brutally assaulted and killed. The safety zone, a small sector set up by foreign missionaries, is overwhelmed by terrorized civilians trying to survive the night. During the absolute peak of the occupation, tens of thousands of innocent people are slaughtered daily in a display of unrestrained cruelty. Siege of Baghdad, Iraq, 1258, February 1258. Baghdad is the undisputed jewel of the Islamic Golden Age. It is a massive, wealthy center of learning, science, and culture. Outside its towering walls sits the Mongol army, led by the ruthless Hulagu Khan. The caliph has proudly refused to surrender. Believing the entire Islamic world will rush to his aid, nobody comes. The Mongols breach the walls, and the order is given to show absolutely no mercy. For days, the streets run with blood. The Mongols slaughter everyone they find, regardless of age or wealth. They tear down grand mosques, palaces, and hospitals. Mongol soldiers enter the Grand Library of Baghdad, grabbing priceless, irreplaceable manuscripts containing centuries of science, mathematics, and philosophy, and throw them directly into the Tigris River to build makeshift bridges. It is written that the river ran black with the ink of the books, and then red with the blood of the scholars. Hundreds of thousands die in a matter of days, and the city is almost completely annihilated. Battle of Stalingrad, USSR, 1942-43, late 1942. The Russian city of Stalingrad is reduced to a smoking, jagged ruin of shattered concrete and twisted steel. The German Sixth Army and the Soviet Red Army are locked in the most brutal, desperate urban warfare in human history. The Germans call it Rattenkrieg, the Rat War. The front line is no longer a field or a trench. It is the floorboards of a ruined apartment building. Germans hold the top floor, Soviets hold the bottom, shooting at each other through holes in the ceiling and throwing grenades down the stairs. The fighting is relentless, pausing for nothing. In the freezing, sub-zero winter temperatures, soldiers fight hand-to-hand with sharpened spades and bayonets over single rooms in a ruined tractor factory. Artillery shells fall constantly, turning the city into a meat grinder. On the absolute worst days of the siege, the combined death toll hits tens of thousands per day. The life expectancy of a newly arrived Soviet conscript crossing the Volga River is less than 24 hours. Battle of the Somme, First Day, France, 1916. The 1st of July, 1916, 7:30 a.m., northern France. The morning is strangely quiet after a deafening 7-day artillery bombardment that fired 1.5 million shells at the German lines. British generals are entirely convinced the German barbed wire is destroyed and the defenders are dead. Officers blow their whistles. Tens of thousands of British soldiers climb over the trench parapets and begin walking slowly, shoulder to shoulder, across the cratered mud of no man's land. But the deep German bunkers survive the shelling. German machine gunners emerge from the earth, set up their heavy weapons, and open fire. The British troops are mowed down in perfectly straight lines. The barbed wire is completely intact, trapping the men in the open, turning them into target practice. Within the very first hour, whole battalions cease to exist. By the time the sun sets over the bloody mud, 57,000 British soldiers are casualties, including 19,000 dead. It remains the bloodiest single day in the history of the British military. Nagasaki atomic bombing, Japan, 1945. The 9th of August, 1945. The American B-29 bomber, known as Boxcar, circles the Japanese city of Kokura. The bomb bay holds a massive plutonium implosion device named Fat Man. But the weather over Kokura is thick with clouds and smoke from a previous firebombing. Running dangerously low on fuel, the pilot makes the decision to divert to the secondary target, the port city of Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., the clouds part just enough to see the city. The bomb is dropped. It falls for 43 seconds before detonating 1,600 feet above the Urakami Valley. The explosion generates a temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. The shockwave travels at the speed of sound, flattening the industrial heart of the city, instantly vaporizing everything in the immediate blast zone. People standing outside are burned into shadows on the pavement. Buildings turn to dust. In the blink of an eye, 40,000 people are wiped out, their homes, families, and lives erased by a single weapon on a Thursday morning. Hiroshima atomic bombing, Japan, 1945, the 6th of August 1945. 3 days earlier, the morning in Hiroshima is clear and warm. Commuters are heading to work, children are reporting to school, and the city is bustling with normal daily life. At Delapan Levenblas AM, a single B-29 bomber named the Enola Gay drops a uranium gun-type bomb called Little Boy. When the bomb detonates over the city, a blinding, completely silent flash illuminates the sky. A fraction of a second later, the massive pressure wave hits the ground. Concrete buildings are crushed like cardboard boxes. The thermal pulse instantly sets wooden structures on fire miles away from the center. People within a mile of the hypocenter simply cease to exist, turning to carbon in a fraction of a second. A massive mushroom cloud rises 40,000 feet into the air, plunging the ruined city into darkness and raining down toxic, radioactive black rain. Between 70,000 and 80,000 people die on day one. A single bomb and a single moment changes the nature of human existence forever. Yangtze River flood, China, 1931. Summer 1931, Central China. The disaster starts with the weather. A massive winter snowmelt, followed by extreme spring rains, and then a series of violent cyclones, all converge on the Yangtze River basin. The water levels rise to impossible heights. The millions of people living in the dense, flat valleys rely on a complex, ancient system of dikes and levees to hold the river back. In the dead of night, the immense pressure of the swelling river finally becomes too much. The dikes violently burst. There is no warning system, no sirens, and no time to run. A terrifying, roaring wall of muddy water surges through the plains. It does not just flood towns, it violently erases them from the map. Entire regions are swallowed whole, while people are sleeping in their beds. On the peak days of the catastrophe, hundreds of thousands of people drown in a single unstoppable surge. Survivors who manage to cling to floating debris or climb tall trees are left stranded in a massive, newly formed inland sea, facing starvation and disease. It stands today as the single deadliest natural disaster and the bloodiest surge of death in recorded human history.